Paint and other coatings have a significant impact on each and every one of our lives, whether we see it or not. There are two main purposes associated with a paint and coating. The first one being purely aesthetic. It's obviously going to be your color and the way you're going to view something. You can change a color, modify it to adapt to fit somebody's personality or a brand. But the second one is more what I'm going to focus on today that not everybody realizes, and that's the protective aspect that a coating has, which is where the word coating goes beyond paint. It's going to actually protect and do more than just change the look of a certain object. But before we start, what would a paint or coating be made of? There are several major components. Your first one, of course, is going to be the carrier. That is the liquid that actually keeps the paint or coating wet. That's going to transfer it to your surface. More and more we see water-based coatings coming along, and they're quickly surpassing their more harmful counterparts like the solvent-based coatings. That's something that's going to dry super quick. It's going to flash off, as they call it, something that evaporates really fast. Those coatings are typically super strong, harmful to your health, and obviously not very good for our environment. That's why we're seeing more of the water carriers come along. But one of the other main components that you'll see is a resin. That's your glue, what's going to make it stick. The resin portion of your coating, of course, as you move into something that's more industrial, something used it's like on offshore drilling, is going to be a lot harsher of a resin. It's going to start being something that cures with moisture rather than air temperature. Something of that nature obviously is going to protect these multi-million-dollar rigs that we depend on to bring oil to our soil. Of course, you have your color, which is going to be your pigment. That's going to be the part of the coating that gives you your color. We don't just make every paint gray or brown. Everybody has a certain taste. If you're Pepsi, of course, you're going to want blue, and your Coca-Cola, you're going to be red. It gives you the ability to choose your colors of your coating. And then aside from that, you're going to have your additives, the different parts of your coating that's going to make it flow and level and give you a nice smooth or glossy finish. Those will be the additives that make your paint flat and reflect no light, or glossy and reflect a lot of light. Coatings and paints are actually more in depth than a lot of people realize. But what a lot of people don't realize is the impact that these coatings have and what they can do. Most people don't realize that a paint doesn't just change your color, but in fact is a protective barrier in a lot of cases. You have something called an intumescent coating. In most cases, these coatings are something that when exposed to fire or high heat will actually turn into a fire retardant. They will turn into a foam that keeps heat from burning, or the fire from burning so quickly, or will cause it to take a longer time to penetrate a wall. We see this a lot in our offshore rigs, in schools, in government buildings where a fire could turn hazardous or deadly pretty quickly. These coatings are able to quickly stop or at least hinder the progress of a fire or something that's extremely dangerous. We also look at non-skid surfaces and things like that, floor coatings. When you look at a major manufacturer like Tyson or somebody who's constantly got a wet area or floor, they install coatings that are actually stronger than steel, stronger than concrete. They dry harder, and they give you a non-skid surface that you can drive forklifts and other things across. By having these coatings, they control our entire infrastructure. They protect our manufacturing, our facilities, our natural resources. They have a broad range of what they can do for us. Commercially, every new home you see and every new building you see is coated, both to protect the drywall and to give you that aesthetic appeal that most people desire. But what most people don't notice is how much the industry is changing. It's not something that stayed the same. The paint from 20 years ago isn't the paint that's from 10 years ago that isn't the paint today. One of the biggest changes we might have seen is when they took lead out of the paint, roughly in the 70s, when they found out that lead was causing cancer and other deformities in births. Sherwin-Williams was one of the first companies to actually pull lead from their products. Nowadays, obviously, lead isn't used anymore, but it's still a problem. It's still on buildings from years ago. We've noticed that more recently, those same kinds of coatings are still hazardous. So we're trying to figure out what's next in the industry. The next thing that people have noticed is these solvent-based coatings, something that uses acetone or lacquer thinner or methyl ethyl ketone, or these other super harmful solvents that are carcinogens, cancer causing, um, is that we are slowly trying to move away from them. The state of California has already banned these substances, and are moving to a solely water-based market. So we're seeing the eco-friendly water-based coatings, the ones that are also good for our health, are slowly becoming stronger and better than their solvent-based counterparts ever were. The technology is being forced to advance further and further. In our water-based coatings, we now even have products that will remove odors and things like that. As time goes forward, we're obviously looking for the best product. And in that, the evolution is of our coatings and our paints are never ending. The desire is to create that perfect gallon of paint or coating. That gallon would ideally stick to any surface, weather every condition, last a lifetime, and have no impact on the environment or ourselves. And the industry continues to work and work and work to get to that point.